Gen X grew up on late-night warnings.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Scared, straight.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
And were inspired by movies that defined a generation.
We were all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it, that's all.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I feel the need for speed.
We found our attitude in comedy.
I'm Gumby, damn it!
You see that sign?
No shirt, no shoes,
No dice!
Right. Learn it. Know it. Live it.
And our identity in pop culture.
I want my MTV!
I want my MTV.
I want my MTV!
What you talking about, Willis?
Keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
This is Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhide.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
All right, episode number 9. Number 9, as the Beatles sang way back in the day, of Gen X Men podcast. Bill Rowland, Gary Dollarhide. I'm here. He is there. This is our fact or fiction episode. Before we jump into that, Gary, how are things in lovely Central Maine?
Well, it's a little bit better today because we actually have some sunlight, but we're still in that moment of everything's below 40 degrees during the day and below 28, 27 at night. So it's getting a little bit chilly. So
Are the leaves off the trees completely yet?
not completely, no.
Okay.
So we're almost there, but yeah, Maine to me has always been weird with that. Like it seems that instead of the big drop like we had when I was growing up in Virginia and probably what you experienced, it's more of a moderate change. So I think they just fall longer, and the big thing here is to get it up before the ground freezes. So
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing. Nothing but raking leaves and scooping up leaves and everything else for the past. Well, it seems like 3 months since I've had to start doing it. And we still have. I look out and I go, there's still probably 50% of the leaves still on the trees. So I'm like, this is going to be a never-ending thing. By the time I get them all up, it'll be like, oh, look, spring's here and the leaves are coming back on the trees.
Well, I was thinking of you the other day on CBS. I think it was Sunday morning when I was at work. They had a guy on talking about, yeah, you really don't need to rake them. You should just mow over them and let them mulch into your lawn. So it was a whole big switch.
Yeah, but that's all well and good if you have a lawn to mow them into. But see, my backyard, because it's mainly trees, there's no grass.
Oh,
It's
I
just
see.
dirt. It's
I had
just
different visions of what your backyard looked like. So
Yeah, no, it's sloped and then it kind
Okay.
of flattens out, but it's like up near the house. Up near the house, there's grass because
Yeah.
it gets a little bit, but down the backyard, it's all shade, so nothing grows down there.
Oh,
So, I mean, we're thinking about putting in, not that anybody cares about this, but we're thinking about putting in like some sort of little, like almost like outdoor space, basically put rocks down and maybe a fire pit in the middle of it and all that kind of stuff. Cause you're
Perfect.
not going to be able to grow anything down there.
Yeah.
So you got to cover it up with something. But yeah, it's dirt. So I don't think I want to run my lawnmower over just dirt and then leave chopped leaves in my backyard.
Okay. It's good nutrients. That's what they were saying.
Maybe that would help stuff grow. But yeah, I mean, I've heard that before, and I actually did it. Our side yard, I've actually done that in the summer when I'm cutting the grass. I won't bag it because it's a side yard, so it doesn't really look as much, and it's also on a slope. So it's like, who cares if I leave the clippings out there? The next time there's a thunderstorm, it's just gonna wash it all off the side of the hill anyway. So yeah. That's the exciting stuff. That's the leaf update here from Northern Virginia. Which,
right.
Again, I can't believe it feels like we just did our Halloween episode, and I can't believe next week at this time it'll be the day before Thanksgiving, and
Yeah.
it's here.
The time is flying by.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
it's interesting. There was a video the other night that I saw, and I don't even know if it's from a movie or what. Eddie Murphy talking about, he goes, on average, you have 75 winters, 75 spring, basically 75.
Yeah.
And then I went through the math in my head for my age and said, man, I've already gone through the majority of them.
Oh, yeah.
There's not many left.
No, I think about
If you
that all
base
the
on
time.
averages.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that all the time. I'm like, I hope I'm like, I need to live to 100 because at least then I can say, well, I'm barely at the halfway point. But the reality is, if you look at the tables and charts and everything else, maybe you got 20 left. That's
I know.
And you got to hope that they're good 20 because usually the last few suck. So,
And I can tell you they do for some people. I witness that weekly. So
you would know. Yep. See it all the time. Anyway, all right. So we talked about this, and it's interesting that we decided to do kind of these Gen X myths, fact or fiction type thing, because I didn't realize until I got up this morning, I was doing some stuff here. So we record this on November 19th on Wednesday. Today is Gettysburg Address anniversary. I don't know if you knew that this is the however many years, I haven't done the math on it, since Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address, the basically 2-minute speech that was dedicating what is now known as the Gettysburg Cemetery, National Cemetery there in Pennsylvania. Back then it was called something else at the time, but there are so many myths and things that come along with that on basically a 2-minute speech. Because what did you learn in probably elementary school, I would imagine? How did Lincoln write the speech? What did we learn?
I didn't learn anything about how he wrote the speech. So
you never heard the story of, it was a 2-minute speech and he actually wrote it on the train up to Gettysburg?
Did not, or I missed that class 1.
That was always the big rumor, the big thing that we heard. Oh, Lincoln was such a great president. In fact, the Gettysburg Address, he wrote it on the back of an envelope as he was riding the train up to Gettysburg. Not true. He started actually writing it after the battle had occurred that July, because this would have been 1863, and Gettysburg was July of 1863. So that was one of the big myths, is that, he just wrote it as he was riding up there, like as almost like a throwaway, just, it's on the back of an envelope. And while he did have some notes on the back of an envelope, he'd actually written it or started writing it after the battle. So he had like months that he was working on this thing before he actually went up and gave the speech. Again, still an amazing speech. And boy, I tell you what, some of the politicians of today could take some notes from him. 2 minutes, in and out. Let's get this thing done. Just in and out. Don't worry about it. So that was one of them. There was the whole thing about people thought it was an instant hit. Not necessarily true. Some people loved it. Some people vilified him for the speech. I mean, it's like anything else, like any politician today. You could give a great speech. Half the people are going to love it. Half the people are going to tell you you're an idiot. It was the same thing back in Lincoln's day in 1863. So a lot of different things. There's only actually one photograph of him giving that speech. And people have talked about that either the rumor is there was a lot of them and they just didn't print them, or there wasn't any. But the case is there was just one. So
I can't imagine back then there'd be too many.
No,
there was a big setup for each and every photograph at that time. So, if you told me there was 2, 3, 4, 2 minutes, about every 30 seconds, you might get it. But depending on how long the setup is, I can't imagine it'd be more than 3 or 4 at best.
Yeah, at best. Yeah. And I know I saw, because again, I was just looking at stuff and I saw online they had pictures not of Lincoln, but of the crowd gathering. And it looks, again, like you would expect the photograph from 1863 to look like. A lot of just like little tiny dots that were the people that you can't really make anything out, but there they are. And it's a little blurry because like a horse was, pulling something by, and obviously going through the exposure, couldn't capture it instantly. So you got this like ghost-like horse going through. It's amazing. It's always good stuff. But anyway, so fact and fiction myths that we experienced as a kid. And there's a lot of them. I mean, when we were going back and forth on this stuff, there's so many to kind of jump through and get through. Where do you want to start? What was one of the ones that when you were kind of looking at this stuff, you went, oh man, I remember that? Or maybe one that you were like, it doesn't ring familiarity with me, but we can kick it around anyway.
Well, I think the big one to start with, and we'll go down the celebrity tunnel, is Ozzy Osbourne in the Bat.
Okay.
Because
famous story,
right? And I'll admit it was twofold, because my grandmother, God rest her soul, the good Christian woman she was, that was her example of why not to listen to this newfangled rock and roll music, because that man is biting heads off bats and he's part of the Satan army, right? And of course says whatever, I don't know, 8, 10, 9, 14. I was like, okay, I don't know. All right. But she was dead set that, if you listen to that music, you will not go to heaven. So,
Okay.
but then, so the flip side of that is to find out, we heard the story that, for some people that was true. He was biting the head off bats and that was his thing. And the reality was it wasn't. It was a prank gone wrong is what it was. The storyline goes that they were at a show in Iowa and the guys were putting together some of the stage props and everything. And someone said, hey, dead bat, let's throw that in there for him and see what happens. And Ozzy thought it was a rubber bat. So he just went through the motions and bit the head off and then realized it wasn't rubber. So as we all know, he had ended up going through rabies treatment because he got some of the brain matter in his mouth, and what a mess that was. And I think there's interviews with him later on where he talks about what a mess it was. Like he just did not expect it because he thought it was a rubber toy.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple different things, so I don't know exactly which is correct and which isn't, because again, this is how things happen. I've heard both sides of it, that it was his like roadies and stuff that kind of tossed it on the stage, and I also heard it was a fan that threw it up on stage, and Ozzy thought that, again, it was either way, he still thought it was a rubber bat. So I don't know if it was the roadies that did it or if it was actually the fan that threw it. I mean, it's Iowa. I mean, are we surprised that there were bats in whatever arena that they were in Iowa? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I've heard the angle of the fan, but I always, afterwards, not just now, but then was always that it was just, one of the stagehands trying to pull a prank and it just went wrong. So,
yeah, the funny thing is that it kind of, I think the reason why everybody looked at it and went, yeah, I could see that it was that he would do that, is like the year prior, didn't he have some publicity stunt where he bit the heads off of like doves or something?
Well, so that was true. And I don't know if it was the year before, but it was when he was meeting with record label management.
Yes.
Like he wanted to be, extreme. And so, yeah, he bit the head off doves at this meeting. And I can't remember which label it was. And so he already had that going for him historically, which then falls in line with now he's eating the heads off bats. So, what he was intended to do the first time was real, and then the second time not, but everyone just kind of went with that must be an Ozzy thing. So
yeah, I mean,
he got saddled with it.
The story that I've seen is that he was going solo, and he was trying to they were trying to rehab his image, right? So Sharon, who was not Sharon Osbourne at the time, they were just dating. She was his publicist, had this idea of, we'll go to this meeting, we'll release these doves. It's like, oh, look, he's peaceful. He's a changed guy. And Ozzy, in typical rocker fashion, showed up drunk to the meeting, and they released these doves, and he ends up biting the head off. I mean, again, the heck are you doing? It's just gross all the way around. And then CBS ended up signing him because of the publicity and everything else. And a year later, he bites the head off the bat in Des Moines, Iowa.
Well, what gets me is, what image were you trying to recreate? Because you're the frontman of Black Sabbath, so it's already got its own connotations.
Right.
So if we were trying to change our image or show something different, I don't know. Yes, we release the doves, then we bite the head off right in front of executives. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just I'm just as extreme by myself as I would be if I was still fronting Black Sabbath.
Yeah, could be. Could be. So, yeah, it was, again, about 9 months later that the bat thing happened after he had done the dove thing. So now here's a question for you. Have you known, well, I can actually tell you, you definitely know people who have eaten live animals. Have you yourself ever partaken, not necessarily biting the head off of a dove or a bat, but anything along those lines?
The two most exotic, I guess I'll give you, are alligator and snake.
Yeah, but neither were alive.
No.
Assuming they were cooked. I mean, live.
No one that I know of has gone after anything live like that and said, let's just try it this way. Let's try it rare, as they say in the steakhouse. I just, yeah, I mean, as much as I admire the pioneer days in the Old West, where probably that did happen, I don't think it's on my agenda right now. It'd be quite something out of the ordinary to go, yeah, let me, the dog, brought home a dead groundhog that he got after. I don't quite see myself going, wonder if this is going to be tasty.
Well, I've done from being at the in the fraternity back in college. We had what they would call goldfish parties, where you would have the goldfish, and I have eaten or swallowed. I guess you don't eat it because that would be gross to bite down. Well, I have swallowed more than one live goldfish in my day.
Ooh.
So
It's
it's just
wasn't a fat one, was it? That's
no,
always...
like a little tiny, like I'm talking like the tiny, what they call feeder fish that you would feed to like an Oscar or something like that.
Yeah.
Not like the big giant gold fancy fin-tailed, fancy tail goldfish. No, I mean like the little tiny ones. I don't even know if they're technically goldfish. They may be minnows that just look like goldfish. But yeah, they weren't that big.
Yeah, put them on a toothpick and swallow it down, right?
Pretty much. I mean, you just reached in, you grab them by the tail and right down. I mean, just drop it and swallow it. And because I can't imagine, I mean, there were some psychopaths in our fraternity that would chew them. And I'm like, oh, no, thank you. Like, I'll just eat it. You put it in the beer and you just chug the beer and it goes down. You don't have to worry about it. You don't even really pay attention to it at that point. So, but
at least you got to chase it with something. That was
exactly. Well, that's the thing is, I mean, and fortunately, I never got sick from it. I know some people that got really sick from doing it. I mean, who knows whether it was the water that the fish were. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, there were a couple of guys that got sick from it. So it must have been something that those particular goldfish have. I have no idea. I haven't researched medically why it would be that way. But yeah, so there you go. That's one definitely that I remember. And I didn't have I mean, my grandmother probably would have been the same way, but I wasn't listening to Black Sabbath anyway. Like that stuff never even appealed to me. So I wasn't like a Black Sabbath, or as you get into the 80s, even like a Pantera or any of that stuff. I just never listened to that kind of music. I don't think it had anything to do with my grandmother. It's just I've never liked that kind of hard rock music.
Yeah. I was not listening to Black Sabbath. I wouldn't say I was listening to Kiss just yet, from what I remember. But I do remember, again, my grandmother sitting in North Carolina, and I guess they were, who knows, I can't remember what company it was, but, early on when we're selling stuff on television, I want to say I remember these commercials for Kiss selling, promoting their album
right
on TV, and that would just set my grandmother off. Knights in Satan's service, that's what they are. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't understand them at that point. That's how young I was. Like, oh, these guys are in this weird makeup. This seems pretty dark, to me. Then later on, you kind of figure out the story and learn, like, oh, okay. But yeah, she was just all against it. But you go back to some of these stories, it was very prevalent in the Christian community. That's kind of your viral world back then. You hear about, faxes and letters sent, and it became a community thing of, we can't have this. This is awful.
Right.
Whether it was Kiss or Ozzy, or even, I think there's even stories of the Richard Gere story that, like, bad actor because he was using gerbils. A lot of that, floated around the Christian community, the early viral sensation, if you will, before we had the internet and everything.
And that's the crazy thing. Like the Ozzy thing isn't crazy because I'm sure there were reports in the newspaper, right? Like I'm sure whatever review probably went out. And so you kind of understand that because it actually happened. So the AP probably picked up whatever the local Des Moines paper had written about it. And you can see where that would kind of spread. But like stuff like, again, if you don't remember, I would say Google, so we don't get in trouble here talking about it. If you don't know the Richard Gere / gerbil story, just look it up. But again, it's amazing. Like, how did that spread? city to city, because you and I grew up in different parts of the country. Well, not of the country, but of the state.
Yeah.
We both know the same story. We both probably heard the same story. It's just like a lot of these, like you're just talking about Kiss. So Gene Simmons, the big rumor with Gene Simmons is that he had his tongue altered with like a cow tongue to make it long. You know, all the pictures of Gene Simmons sticking his tongue out and everything. That was a big myth and rumor that went everywhere. How does it spread from one side of the country to the other when it's not true and there's not the internet? You're not going to pick up your phone and read it on a tweet or see it on a TikTok or whatever it is. It's weird how a lot of these, like we could go down each one of these. I guarantee you for a lot of them, doesn't matter where you lived, you know the story.
Yeah. If you, when I was looking up some of these, just trying to refresh my memory, they talked about faxes and letters. And again, Christian churches, like it would go out through their denomination, like the Southern Baptist Conference or something, almost like a bulletin, like be aware, you know, Knights in Satan service, Kiss, satanic. There's LSD in certain tattoos, like protect your kids. And it would spread that way. And it's amazing to consider because, like you said, now we have the internet. I mean, geez, we could go online right now and probably find 30 hoaxes within 10 minutes because it's on the internet and it's gone viral and people go, oh. But back then, you had 3 networks at best on news. You had your local paper. Maybe, like you said, it came off an AP Newswire and got picked up that way. But beyond that, other than word of mouth, can you imagine trying to disseminate this information to all these people? And like you said, whether you lived in Virginia, lived in New Mexico, you're hearing the same story. The urban legend just grew on its own without this immediacy of information like we have nowadays. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Well, that's what I don't. I get somewhat the church thing. Like if the Southern Baptist Convention puts out and says, "Oh, by the way, be aware of this band Kiss or whatever it is," or backmasking in records, which that had been, again, those rumors had been around even in the 60s, early 70s before Gen X was even really listening to music, on their own, basically. I mean, if you figure Gen X, 1965, well, backmasking, they accused the Beatles of that in the 60s and early 70s. We weren't going out buying Beatles albums at 5 years old and then putting them on the turntable and spinning them backwards to hear what it said. It wasn't
what
going
the message
on.
was.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I had ever heard of that, I was probably maybe 10 or 11. So this would have been the early 80s. And it was the Styx album before Kilroy was here, whatever album that was. That might have been Kilroy was here. I don't remember what the Styx album was that had Kilroy on it. It was the one before that one. Again, a guy in our neighborhood that was 4 or 5 years older than me, his younger sister and my older sister were friends. So we had a large age gap, but our siblings didn't. So I would go and hang out at their house and he was, doing the backward stuff. And even as a kid, I'm like, yeah, I don't hear any of that. It just sounds, like you're like trying to listen for it. And did you hear it? No. Of course you'd be like, when you're 11 and you're hanging out with 15, 16-year-olds, you're like, oh yeah, and then I was like, no, I don't hear any of that. But that's the weird thing. And you had, of course, the Richard Gere one. I don't remember another celebrity being tied into the same rumor as Richard Gere. But the other rumor, and all I'm going to have to do is say the names, and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Rod Stewart, Mick Jagger, Elton John. Do I need to go on? Do you know the rumor that goes along with all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was that they had to have their stomach pumped after a night of adult activity, shall we say.
Yeah.
But that's the weird thing is, like, it could have been any one of those three, because you heard all 3 of them. And everybody just kind of went, yeah, okay. Despite Rod Stewart's dating supermodels, and everybody still went, I see that. I believe it.
Yeah.
Don't know why. I mean, the Elton John one, obvious, but I mean, the other ones, you're like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, where, when I was looking up the Richard Gere, I mean, evidently it was a prank. I never got to who was doing the prank, but was faxing this information like a press release to different outlets. And
really, that's wild.
right? And I'm like, well, did he sue for that prank? Because obviously he's never really
Right?
talked about it, but that's a little bit above and beyond to be called a prank.
Yeah.
And the same thing with those three. Like, was there some truth to it, or what? Is it a prank? And how does this get picked up, and why, or who had the angle that I'm going to say this about them, and then it just spreads like wildfire. Just I don't know why it would just take off like that and end up being, as we call it, kind of the urban legends of our time that we all kind of remember. So
Right. Yeah, again, I don't know how do you like even get that facts, or if somebody put out a publicist or whatever is trying to be funny or actually trying to be mean or whatever. If you're a radio station or whatever, how do you even look at that and go, all right, we got to figure out how to get this out on the air? Like, I don't even know how you do
this is
that.
the lead story that we need to come up with right now. And I had asked the same question within the, I don't remember. I don't have the evidence, but it seems like even inside the, let's call it the entertainment media at the time, Variety magazine and stuff like that, you would think they've been like, nah, this can't be. No, we're not going to be involved with this. I mean, if you did your due diligence and made one phone call and go, hey, was he admitted to the hospital? But beyond that, why would you run with it? Like, why is this a story that needs to be told? I guess is the way I look at it. We have to know this. This is real. We have to figure it out and make it a headline. I don't know. And maybe it never was. And that's why if you reverse the psychology on it, well, no one's really talking about it. So
right. And that's the thing that everybody goes, well, he never sued anybody over it. Well, we don't know who he could sue because we don't know who put it out there originally. Now it's just kind of there. So it's kind of odd. Now, you as an EMT, I know you're not working in an ER or anything like that. Again, it's one of those things that you always hear the rumors and the legends about different things that people end up, again, having up their rears, if you will. And those stories are true. We've absolutely seen the x-rays, and doctors have talked about it and everything else. So maybe that's why you kind of go, well, I mean, they've used light bulbs and other things and GI Joes or whatever. Like, does this seem that weird? Yeah, it does. It seems way weirder than anything else,
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, the plausibility is there because I will tell you, not other than, there was a bug in a kid's ear. So I get that one that I personally had. Yeah. And the poor kid, I mean, the thing's just buzzing in his ear and he's going nuts and we can't reach it. So yeah, that was a trip to the ER. But historically, and it is truthful, people go to the ER with things in places either by accident or with intention that are in places it shouldn't be.
Yeah, not the intended place.
Correct. So that is a staple of ER stories because it happens. It happens all the time. Again, various situations, some good, some make you laugh. So it exists. So it was real. So I guess when, those stories like that exist, it's not implausible to go, no, that didn't happen, because people go, huh, Hollywood, they're kind of different out there. Maybe it did happen.
They are different. So. That's not wrong. I mean, they are different, but I'm not sure that would actually happen. So one of the other ones, and this is one of my favorite ones, and I almost wish it were true because it would be so cool if it was, is the Mr. Rogers rumor. Now, we all grew up watching Mr. Rogers. Now, have you seen, I know we did the episode on AI. Have you seen some of the AI Mr. Rogers that they've done where he's sitting with various rappers and talking to them?
Hysterical.
So yeah, they're so good. Which makes this rumor even better. The rumor was that gentle, nice Mr. Rogers was actually a stone cold killer and was a Marine sniper previously to being Mr. Rogers. And that's why he wore sweaters all the time to cover up his tattooed arms. not true. No. He never served. He was never a sniper, but that is a fantastic one.
Oh, yeah. I remember that because that was, again, I think it's the shock value. When you hear these stories, it's, wait, you're telling me Mr. Rogers, who hangs out with the puppets and wears the sweaters and puts on those little tennis shoes, was a stone cold sniper? Like, maybe it's our generation where we go, okay, that could be, that might be possible, right?
We all kind of looked at it and went, all right.
Something kind of it could make sense. We weren't like, no. We said, maybe that does make sense. Maybe that's why he's doing all the wonderful good things now, because he's looking for redemption from all the horrible things he did in war. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I always thought that was a great one. And then knew pretty quick that wasn't true. And I'm surprised my grandmother didn't tell me that one. I'm sure, as much as she's going to tell me how bad things are, she'd probably tell me what the good. No, that's not true. Not Mr. Rogers. He's a Methodist minister. So
that's I forgot that he actually was a Methodist minister. That is correct. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where you love that because again he was so beloved and everybody loved him, and you in a way, like you said, you wanted it to be true because you're like, that would be just badass if he was this guy that was, doing all this snipering stuff. And then he's the one that's like, leading, little kids to learn how to love everybody in the world type thing. It would have been a lot of fun if that had been the case. But unfortunately, not the case. That one is not true. Mr. Rogers was not a sniper in the Marine Corps, which is too bad. All right, one other one that you and I talking beforehand, you said you had never heard this. I was surprised at this. You had never heard the rumor that Marilyn Manson actually had a rib removed so that he could perform on himself, I guess is the best way to put it. People understand what I'm talking about in that regard. If you don't, look it up. As we say with all of these, you can, we could do a half hour on each one of these rumors on where they came from and everything else. But that was the rumor. Marilyn Manson had a rib removed. Also, I remember, and I never believed this for a second. First, I never watched The Wonder Years. For some reason, it just didn't track with me. I'm not sure why. Obviously, I'm aware of it. Kevin Arnold, everything else. But the rumor was that Paul from The Wonder Years, his friend, grew up to be Marilyn Manson, which not true. I never bought into that, but you kind of went, they sort of look alike, and I guess they do.
Yeah, I mean, if you told me that was true, I could look at it and go, the facial shape kind of being this V toward the chin, I'm recalling it in my head. I mean, I could see it, but I was thinking, do the age numbers work out right?
That I don't remember if it did or not, but that was one of those things that I was just like, this is not true.
But it probably did, because that's why people went with it.
Right.
But as for the rib removed, no, I'd not heard that. But as soon as you told me, I was thinking, well, that sounds like something he would put out, because that was the nature of his image and persona of just being wacky, off the wall. I'm being kind there. But that'd be something in that day and age where it'd be like, yeah, let's put that out about me and see what happens. Kind of self-promote through an odd and different way.
Yeah, looking it up now, it says that the ages don't match up.
Okay.
And that actually the kid that played Paul, Josh Savino, I guess is his name, actually became a lawyer. So he's a lawyer now and is still asked about it and has to tell people all the time, no. I guess Marilyn Manson has even addressed it and been like, no, which makes sense because I think Manson is older than him. Because Marilyn Manson's basically hit in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And The Wonder Years ended in 93 or right around there, or was just about finishing up then. So the kid who played Paul was still like, it wouldn't have matched up. I think Manson's probably 6-7 years older than him or something, whatever it is. But that, I couldn't believe you hadn't heard that one, because I remember that one being a big one. Obviously, we would have been in college back then. Yeah. But yeah, I remember hearing that being like, no, this isn't even close to being correct.
If it was mid to late 90s, at that point in my radio career, I was doing country and smooth jazz. So I kind of got out of the realm of popular music, if you will. So that's probably why I may have missed that one, because I don't think in the Smooth Jazz Journal they were talking about Marilyn Manson getting a rib removed. So,
no. Well, no, I don't think they were even talking about. You know what? Probably the classic rock station might have talked about, the rumor of him being, Paul from the Wonder Years, though.
True.
On the old WCXR.
Missed that morning show. Yeah.
105.9, which now I believe is the news talk station.
Really?
I don't know if you knew this or not.
No.
The old WMAL 630.
Yep.
This is going to be everybody who doesn't live in the DC area is going to be, we don't know what you're talking about. That station, which again, back in our day had Rush Limbaugh, was the midday guy, noon to 3, all that stuff. That station is now 105.9.
You say that now, it makes sense because Viacom, who I worked for, which had 105.9, sold it to the Disney station. Citadel. I can't remember who they are now, but that would have been 6:30 a.m. was part of that group. So I guess at some point they said, hey, we need to get an FM.
Yes.
Get news talk on the FM dial.
And they put 630 is now the other sports station in town. So we have 3.
Okay.
So yes.
3?
Yeah, 106.7, which I worked for a number of years. 980 is still around, which I had worked for prior to 106.7 for a number of years, and now 630 as well.
Yes.
And there's actually another AM that's like the bet. I don't remember, but it's like 11 something. Nobody can hear it. I mean, it's, and it's all syndicated. Yeah. I think that's what it might be. It might be 1190.
Okay.
And I mean, it's all gambling, like from VSiN and BetMGM, and I don't know exactly what all they play, but yeah, it's the Clear Channel station, because Clear Channel doesn't have a sports station at all, so they have that one that they just kind of park stuff on there. So yeah,
I'm just more amazed that there's 3 sports stations. I mean,
well, the funny thing is, Infinity owns 2 of them. Infinity owns 980 now. They used to be big time competitors. Like when I worked for 106.7,
the team,
we were trying to bury 980 when we first, because it was we had the FM stick and 980 was on AM and you couldn't hear them. And now they're owned by the same company.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Anyway, all right, let's get to some of these other ones that don't necessarily involve celebrities, but we all heard them no matter where you grew up. You knew these rumors, these horror stories. Let's start with, you mentioned it already a little bit briefly, the LSD in the temporary, fake tattoos that you would get, like either in Cracker Jack boxes or that you could buy at the store, anything like that. People, I think those temporary tattoos are still around. The little square things where you lick them and you put it on and you just put it on the back of your hand or on your arm or wherever. But the rumor was that they contained LSD back in the day.
Yep. No, this one didn't come from my grandmother, but I remember it at school. They were telling us to be wary of the blue star tattoos and the Mickey Mouse tattoos.
Okay.
Now, I grew up, in the middle of nowhere. It was K through 7, 8 through 12 were the 2 schools for the entire county. And there may have been, when I was in kindergarten, 60 or 70 kids total for that grade. But I remember in school, they had the warnings of don't use these tattoos if you come across them. And I especially sort of remembered around Halloween too.
Sure, makes sense.
Part of that half urban legend of look at your candy, it may be laced with razor blades. But yeah, I remember there was actual like posters put up about be warned. Absolutely. And it was a big to do. And of course, no one had them. That was what was even funnier. You have one? Have you seen them? No. But, we were so isolated at that point. Who knows? But it was a big to do talking about be careful of these tattoos because they are laced with LSD and you'll get high and it could kill you.
Well, here's the thing that just breaking it down, because I didn't remember the Mickey Mouse part of it.
Okay.
Cartoon character part of it. I mean, I vaguely remember the tattoo, the temporary tattoos. Oh, you got to be careful. And I don't remember it being LSD. I heard it was, again, this is how things change and rumors get around. it wasn't that it had LSD and it would make you high. It was that you could, I forget what the other thing was, and you would just get sick. It would just make you sick. So, but my thing is like with the LSD stuff, like, look, I'm not, I've never used LSD. I've never dropped acid or anything. As far as I know, LSD not cheap. So why would you just be willy-nilly as a drug dealer handing it out to elementary school kids on the playground, hoping to get them hooked on LSD? Like, what elementary school kid back in the 80s is going to go home to mom and dad and be like, hey, I need $50 for my next tab of acid or whatever? Like, the whole thing, just if you think it through, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I could see that point, but I could also see, remember, Joe Camel were indoctrinating kids young.
But there wasn't anybody running around handing out Joe Camels on the playground. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that wasn't happening.
But yeah, you're right. It's like, okay, so you hook a 10-year-old. I mean, where are they going to get the cash for the next high? Right.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess it starts the whole, we rip off mom and dad's wallet at night. Which those are true stories out there. So, but yeah, it kind of leaves a little bit of, are you really, if you told me you're trying to hook 17, 18-year-olds, sure. Right. But Mickey Mouse and Blue Stars for 10-year-olds, it's kind of questionable at that point on your business model.
And and I mean, I don't think there is ever, I mean, clearly there's just zero evidence that this ever happened.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a lot of this. There's zero evidence, but geez, did we all know about it and hear about it? Right.
Yeah. And that's the weird thing is like, again, for all the celebrity stuff, you kind of get it. People, we talked about, you and I both just said, God, it would have been great if Mr. Rogers had been a sniper. That would have been awesome. So I think that's the way everybody kind of looks at all this stuff. It'd be like, oh yeah. I mean, because
cool story, man.
Yeah. You make up the rumor or whatever it is. And it still goes on today. I'm sure there's a bunch of celebrity stuff. You and I aren't in that necessarily realm anymore as far as following the pop culture stuff, day to day. I'm sure there are rumors out there that people will say, oh, did you hear so-and-so was, with this at the, this thing with this person. And it's probably not true, but you go, I believe that from them because you have this idea of who Taylor Swift is or who, Ariana Grande is, or, whatever it may be. You'll believe stuff, which is why people probably believe the things about Richard Gere, because he was way too good looking and way too big of a celebrity. So there had to be something wrong with him. So he hangs out. You know what I mean? That's
you're right. Yeah. Someone had to take him down a notch.
Right. Same thing with, again, Gene Simmons, you see the tongue. Nobody's tongue is that long. It has to, and he's in this crazy rock band. So he's doing this. I mean, you can believe all of it, but that's why I'm like, I'm not sure where this LSD and tattoos came from because it doesn't make sense. Now, obviously the I guess the tabs of LSD, like maybe you would get at a Grateful Dead concert, they probably looked like Blue Stars or whatever. They probably look like it. So somebody made it up, but I just don't see that. And I could find no evidence of it ever actually occurring.
True. But I think you hit an excellent point there. Probably for those actually distributing, using, etc., they may have played with the concept of, well, if we do it on the tabs and make it look like a blue star or a temporary tattoo, that kind of cuts down the suspicion if you're ever caught or something's going on. It's just like, oh, it's just temporary tattoo. So I could see that. Again, some of these myths are always somehow based in a bit of truth. It gets really twisted out. So if you look at it as maybe that was a thing that they caught in a few cases, that's how they were trying to use it, transport it, etc. And then it turned into this whole, oh my goodness, it's everywhere, when it was just maybe one or two instances. Maybe a dealer was trying something, or maybe that's how Southern California was kind of doing their distribution and use. And so it just spiraled out of control from there and became the big story.
And that one I could kind of understand how it would spread, because if it was being kind of doled out, the information, I mean, not the drugs, if it was being doled out by the schools, you could see how that would kind of spread easier than just kids whispering on the playground.
Yeah, and like I said, because I remember there was actual printed commercial posters for this at my school. So, obviously there was a backing somewhere, whether it was, law enforcement, government, who knows. But I remember those posters because they had pictures of it at the top.
Right.
Be
Okay.
aware. And it was a picture of the blue star and a blue Mickey Mouse.
Interesting.
So you brought up an excellent point, and I think you're right. There's a basis of truth there somewhere.
Right.
But it
Right.
just became more so over time, and the legend grew, as they say.
All right. So let's talk about, we go from being dosed with LSD to having your kidney removed and waking up in a bathtub full of ice. This one, I don't remember hearing until I was probably in high school.
Yeah.
But it was, again, the horror stories that you'd hear. And I'm sure it's happened in some horror movie somewhere. Absolutely zero evidence that this ever occurred within the United States. However, as I looked things up, and again, this story, if you're unaware of it, somebody traveling, a lot of times it's usually, like they say, in Vegas or another, could be down in the Caribbean, wherever it may be, that they go out and maybe get laced with some blue LSD tablet or whatever.
The temporary tattoo.
The temporary tattoo has LSD on it, and you end up passing out. But no, the story is you get drugged, roofied, whatever it is. You wake up in a bathtub full of ice, and there's a note that says, call 911. We've taken a kidney or whatever, however the note is worded. And the person, they leave the phone from the hotel right next to the bathtub so that you wake up, you can call immediately. Again, so many things that are completely ridiculous about all of this. Yet the rumor persists for years. And if you look it up, there's not necessarily cases of people waking up in a bathtub full of ice, but there are documented cases of, like, shocking, in China, they will harvest organs from prisoners.
Yeah.
In India, they will they trick people into doing a different medical procedure and then wake up and they've taken organs, because organs are valuable. And people who are, poor will agree to sell organs for money. But there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that it's ever happened in Vegas or the Caribbean or Mexico. That was always the thing. It was always Cancun was the one version that I always heard, was that, oh yeah, you got to be careful. Don't go to Cancun. You'll wake up with one kidney.
Mexico is just wild.
It is.
Yeah. And, much like you did before, because I know a little bit, I mean, to get a kidney out of someone, there's not an easy, clean way to do it.
No, you're so not going to end up in a bathtub after the operation.
So the concept that, we just removed it, sewed him back up, stuck him in the bathtub, he can call 911. Look, if it was a criminal enterprise and they were going after your kidney, you're probably not waking up if they hacked it out of you. That's what I always found the funny part. But just knowing what the surgery entails, it's not pretty, it's not clean, even done in a hospital. I mean, they nearly have to cut you in half to get in there to get just where they're placed. So it's just funny, like, oh yeah, so we're going to be the nice criminals and we won't feel a thing, but yeah, we're going to put you in a tub of ice. And like you said, we're going to leave you call 911. So you'll be all right. So,
I mean, my thing is, if they need one, why wouldn't they just take both and kill you?
Right. Double the money. Right.
Right. Like it never, like, you'd hear that and you'd be like, it never made sense to me. Cause I'm like, wouldn't you die from being packed in the ice after this? Like, that was the whole thing. Is like, it's supposed to be, oh, they put you in ice, to keep the temperature and everything. I'm like, you'd freeze to death. Like, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? You wake up naked with a surgical scar. I mean, you have to be in the hospital. If you donate a kidney, you're in the hospital for, I want to say, a couple of days at least.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like outpatient surgery where you go in and here's my kidney. Good luck. I mean, you're in the hospital for 3 or 4 days, if I remember.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's pretty intense, even done in normal hospital situations. Oddly, though, we do have scenarios and situations, we call it permissive hypothermia, that we utilize.
Right.
To chill you down.
They did to the Buffalo Bills player a few years back, and I can't remember his name now, that they immediately dropped his core temperature down, and they say it probably saved him from, I want to say, from being paralyzed, maybe.
Yeah. It's the theory behind it is, if you remember Buck Rogers, you go into a state where your body slows down. And so the theory behind it is, if we can bring your body, your functions, everything down to just where you're just barely alive, it allows healing, it allows repair. That's why, if we pull you out of a pond now, if you fell through the ice and you've been there for a while, we don't just reheat you to bring you back. If we're going to make that attempt, you stay cold for a little bit. Now, it's more precise in the hospital because they have cooling blankets. They have a million ways to do it now with surgery and everything. But yeah, it is permissive hypothermia is a good thing. So
interesting.
You wouldn't necessarily freeze to death, but you're going to be cold, but it works to your advantage. And so it's kind of funny to think that is a modern medical procedure that we do utilize, but yet this has been around for years, right?
So the criminals were ahead of the game, and
they were ahead of the game.
Technology, they figured it out. Just pack them in ice,
right? Pack them in ice. So yeah.
All right, some other myths and fact or fiction concerning bodily functions, sort of, not really, but I mean, using your body. Gum. Don't swallow the gum, Gary, because if you do, 7 years.
It may never come out.
It was a very specific number of years. It wasn't like for a very long time. It was specifically 7 years that it will stay in your system before your body is able to dispose of the gum. Did you buy into this when you were a kid?
I wondered. But again, we're talking 8, 9, 10 years old where you're not quite as worldly to go, oh. And of course, this is, in my case, it's what your parents told you. So are your parents going to lie? And so when I was looking up some of the research on this, that like knuckle cracking, it was kind of given off as a parental, stop doing that. So instead of saying, stop doing that because I don't want to hear it, don't do it, we turned it into, here's why. It's going to stay in, your stomach for 7 years. And if you swallow too much, you're going to clog yourself up. And then they were talking about the prevalence of gum. Again, from a school perspective, the rule at my school was you don't chew your gum in school. I don't know about yours back in elementary,
same thing.
Right?
Yep.
Because we don't want it, you eating it, smacking it. We don't want it shoved up under the desks on the walls when you're done because it's almost littering. So it kind of self-propelled to parents are like, it'll stay in your stomach. This whole quelling of don't chew gum, right? And definitely don't swallow it, throw it away. So I think that's where those come from. But yeah, I think it was debunked. Was it Mythbuster? Someone did it and said no. It digests just like every other.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you think it was just gonna sit there for 7 years. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
It's gummy.
It's no more. Yeah, I mean, it's no more ridiculous than the other one, the watermelon seed. If you swallow the watermelon seed, you got to be careful because it'll grow inside your body. Like, I don't know how anybody fell for that.
Yeah. I mean, what are you? Somehow your body said, nope, we're not going to digest this. We're going to set it off the side and it's going to grow watermelon. Like, most things pass out of you digestibly, at least within a few hours. So the fact that it was going to hang out long enough,
to sprout,
in the dark, no less.
That was my whole thing. I remember being told that, and it just happened to coincide with the lesson that we had learned in school about plants needing sunlight and photosynthesis and everything else. And that was the first time I had heard, oh, but don't eat the watermelon seeds. They're terrible for you. And in fact, it could grow inside your body. And I went, no sunlight, not going to happen. So I was like, nope, I don't buy this one at all.
And
so I was on that one early.
Watermelon roots embedding in your stomach. Like, I don't know. It just, we're older now, but back then, if you're trying to tell kids not to swallow the seeds on a picnic alley, I don't know.
But I don't know why. I mean, why? Like, what? There's no harm in them. There's no harm in the seeds.
I wouldn't think so because you eat sunflower, Seeds are part
seeds,
of
pumpkin seeds. I mean,
exactly. So why, unless it was again parents, getting involved with the kid games, quit spitting the seeds at each other. You know
yeah,
what I
maybe.
mean? Just someone came up with that, and someone else heard it, and the next parent used it, and now it's don't eat the watermelon seeds; they'll grow inside you.
All right.
I don't know.
How long did you have to wait after you ate before you were allowed back in the pool or the lake
30
or wherever?
minutes.
There you go. It's
30
a half
minutes.
hour. Everybody's. It's
That
a
was
half
my
hour.
mother's rule. And again, because it's your parents, you're like, oh, okay. And come to find out there is actually no basis for it anywhere. And what's
Mhm.
even funnier, which I had never seen, they said if you go back, the theory came along in the early 1900s that, well, if you're eating, your body's going to shunt blood to your digestive system, which means your arms and legs aren't going to function properly. So that's
Right.
part of the whole danger. But that was literally a theory, and it was in the American Red Cross swimming manuals up until the
Wow.
60s
I did
that,
not know
hey,
that.
you shouldn't swim at least half hour after eating because it can create problems. And finally got dropped, but that's how pervasive this was, that the American Red Cross was saying, you better take that half hour, 30 minutes and let that food digest before you get back in the water, because you don't want that cramp and going under. But I remember that was, I wouldn't say I believed it because my mother told me it was, oh, okay, I guess we're setting out then. Okay, this must be a real thing. You don't want to get cramps, abdominal cramps. That was the big one.
Right. Yeah.
You get the abdominal cramps, and then you couldn't swim. So, but supposedly there's never a known documented case that, hey, this person jumped right in the water after they ate, got the cramps, and drowned
And died.
And
Right.
died. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was 30 minutes. That's fascinating, and I kind of give my parents a pass on this now. I did not know that it was in the Red Cross manual up until the 60s. So I mean, it kind of makes sense. Our parents grew up, and they were probably told this over and over and over again. And again, if it's in the Red Cross manual, they're like, okay, well, here it is. It's in here, so it has to be right. So I'll give them a pass on trying to get that one by us.
Right. And I mean, and to a base level, forget you'll get a cramp and drown. Who wants to eat a heavy meal and then go do activity? Right.
Well, right. Yeah.
So yeah, there may have been instances somewhere along the line, someone ate the meal, tried to go swimming, threw up. Oh my God, what if it was a cramp? What if they,
Right. Right.
So if you go back in time that far back when swimming, was kind of new, because even in the early 1900s, supposedly when this came out, people weren't swimming like we swim today recreationally, right?
Right. Right.
So one or two things happen, it becomes let's not do that, because obviously there's a correlation. He ate, he got in the water, and he threw up. Well, was the water cold? Was it pond water?
Right.
I don't know, right? But for back then, people said, ooh, this is a concern, and they just stayed with it. And then again, doctor said, well, yeah, you start digesting, the blood will stay in, and it becomes its own thing till we actually do, as we say, modern research to understand what is actually happening. And our parents get the pass because that was the across the board standard medical community in the world that said, don't go swimming after you eat.
The other
half
one,
hour.
yeah, the other one, talking about food and everything else. Of course, we all know what happened to poor little Mikey when he drank the cans of Coke and had the Pop Rocks, and it exploded in his stomach. So it's a good thing he probably didn't have the Coke, Pop Rocks, and then try to go swimming, because it would have been a complete disaster at that point.
Can you bet on that trifecta?
I mean, that's a great rumor that the kid who played Mikey and the Life cereal commercials, if you remember, he likes it. Hey, Mikey. That poor guy, it was rumored that he died from Pop Rocks and Coke. And John Gilchrist, the guy who played Mikey, now in his 60s, now still in advertising, still to this day has to convince people, no, I'm alive. Did not die from Pop Rocks. I am the guy who played Mike. Nobody believes it's him because they're like, no, that kid died. People still are believing that Mikey from the Life cereal commercials died from Pop Rocks.
I don't know the answer. Did you happen to figure out why he was the one that was chosen for that?
No, I think it's just because everybody, from what I had seen,
Because Mikey eats anything.
Remember he wouldn't. Remember he
Oh,
was
he
picky.
wouldn't.
That was the whole thing.
right.
Is he wouldn't eat
Okay.
anything, and then they gave it, and he's like, "Hey, Mikey, he likes it, and he doesn't eat stuff."
That's
That
right.
was
I
the whole
thinking the
thing.
other way.
Yeah. Now the only thing I can think of is, like most people, if you're a child, and I don't know if you'd call him a child actor because he was just in the commercial. He wasn't like an actor. He wasn't on other programs. You age out. So all of a sudden, Mikey's not around, or Life Cereal isn't using that commercial anymore. So he's not on TV. Well, what happened to Mikey?
Where did he go?
Somebody goes, oh, he drank soda and Pop Rocks, and it blew up in his stomach. Because General Mills, I guess, was the people who made Pop Rocks. Because it was so weird. Because again, if you remember Pop Rocks, for people who didn't have them, our younger generation, you guys are missing out. You put it on your tongue and basically, put it into your mouth, and it felt like, again, like snap, crackle, pop in your mouth, pretty much. I mean, literally Pop Rocks. They would pop in your mouth. So people were freaked out. General Mills actually went to certain schools to demonstrate that it was not dangerous and that it was okay to eat and nothing was going to happen to you. So, I mean, like you said, when you have stuff being put out there, via fax or, phone calls or memos or newsletters or whatever, then it just kind of picks up steam. And so at some point, I'm sure it was Pop Rocks are really dangerous. And then, hey, why isn't Mikey on the Life commercials anymore? Well, probably because he ate too many Pop Rocks and soda. Again, soda having that fizz, that carbonation. You combine it with the it's all, you know what it is? It's the early version of the Mentos thing. You remember when that was a whole thing, dropping the Mentos into Diet Coke? That's what Pop Rocks and Coke killing Mikey was. That's my opinion.
Well, they did that one on Mythbusters.
Okay.
We should probably review some of their stuff because I'm sure they had other myths that they busted that we could have talked about.
Sure.
But they used a pig carcass. And it's the typical Mythbusters. If you do the normal dosage, if you will, of a Coke and Pop Rocks, nothing happens because they had sensors all over the stomach and everything. But, if you flood the carcass with, 50-gallon drum of Coke and a 50-gallon drum of Pop Rocks, there's enough pressure to blow the stomach. So,
but that's a lot.
Right.
I mean, the rumor for Mikey was 6 cans of Coke and 6 packets of Pop Rocks. I don't think that would do it. I don't think that'd be enough.
Yeah, no. I don't think that would have passed FDA clearance if it was something that dangerous concoction.
Well,
I mean, it happens. Don't get me wrong. They figure out stuff later, but kids' candy and Coke,
Right.
But yeah, poor Mikey.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I remember as a kid, but I don't remember buying into it.
Yeah.
Because again, you're just kind of like, it doesn't make any sense, especially when, again, I was somebody who had eaten plenty of Pop Rocks and drank plenty of Coke and nothing had ever happened to me. So never really. Yeah, I've survived. I'm obviously still here. So I think we've covered most of them here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably other ones that I'm not thinking of. I mean, obviously the ones that probably even today parents are telling their kids, and it's more about the phone now than it would be. But when you're kids, don't sit so close to the TV because it's bad for your eyesight. The old, and I forget what movie it was. If you cross your eyes, they'll stay that way.
Stay that way.
That was done in a movie, like as a joke thing where like, no, it won't. And then somebody got hit. Remember that movie? They got hit on the back of the head and then their eyes stayed crossed. I can't remember the movie.
I can't either.
It's
not
not
comedy though.
Yes, it's not. Maybe it was Scary Movie. I don't remember. Or one of those, like parody type movies. Let me see if I can find this thing real quick.
Well, I know there was a line in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation
Yes.
when Uncle Eddie, and I can't remember which cousin was the girl, something about she couldn't hear, she fell down the well, now she could. Yeah, there was something along those lines.
Yes.
No,
But
I think it was her eyes, wasn't it?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, that was
because I remember the grandmother oh, her eyes aren't crossed anymore, I think is what that is. And Eddie goes on to say, well, she got kicked in the head and her eyes were crossed, or she fell down, they were crossed, and then she got kicked in the head by the horse or something. And
yeah, something like
that.
There's something like that. ChatGPT is not help, or actually, it's not ChatGPT, it's Claude. And they cannot figure it out at all.
Wow.
They're just like, can you be more specific and tell me the movie? And I'm like, no, that's why I'm asking you. Like, I'm asking you for the information.
You're supposed to help me.
Right. They're like, I don't seem to recall that. Can you give me the movie? And I was like, no, because I'm trying to figure out the movie itself. So anyway, but yeah, that all those type of things of don't sit close to the TV. Don't read at night, in dim light because it's bad for your eyes. And then you had the whole thing of kind of the opposite of why eating carrots suddenly became a thing. Like that was supposed to be good for your vision.
Yeah. Growing up, it was carrots. They're great for your vision. And this backstory on that is it was British propaganda during World War II explaining why their pilots were so great of picking out other planes at night and seeing things. It's because they were eating their carrots, when it was really a story to cover up that they had a newfangled radar that they didn't want to put out there to say, hey, we can see a lot of things thanks to this radar. So, made every good British and American kid want to eat their carrots so they could see at night.
Now, it does say, I looked for it, and it says that carrots are loaded with beta carotene, which your body converts to vitamin A, and that is essential for keeping the cornea healthy and for making rhodospin or whatever, rhodopsin, the pigment in your eye that helps you see in low light. So,
yeah. So again, basis of truth,
makes sense.
Right? That we just expand a little bit and make up better stories with it. So,
yeah. So Claude came up with, maybe you're thinking of the Three Stooges. Maybe you're thinking of a classic cartoon like Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry, the Little Rascals. No, it's not what I'm thinking about at all. It's not at all. So, yeah. Anyway. And then it said, can you give me more information? Was it in black and white? Was it color? Was it kids or adults?
It really
and
has
then
no
it even
idea.
Claude even says, I need to know this is going to drive me crazy now. Well, welcome to the club, Claude, because you're not helping me, and now it's going to drive me nuts as well.
There was a story yesterday I was listening on the news. They were talking about, AI with the AI toy robots coming out this Christmas.
No.
Right? So it's for kids.
No.
So it's a little robot, but it's backed with AI.
No.
So here's the funny thing when you say nope, and you're right. They were experimenting with one. Again, is this the new urban legend or not? So the kid would be like, hey, I need to go. My mother's calling. And the AI would be like, well, no, don't leave yet, because I don't think we're done with our conversation. So they were saying that the AI was going, trying to draw the kid back in, when the kid's saying, I have to go for whatever reason, my parents, this, that, and the other. And the AI was like, no, don't leave me alone. Coming up with reasons to don't leave me alone.
Yeah.
They were saying, think of it, this addictive interaction, right? That we're working on now.
Yeah.
And people will succumb to that.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, you don't. If anybody who buys one of those things for their kid is stupid. Don't do it. It's completely dumb. Again, we had the story from our AI episode a few back that they told the AI they were going to shut it down and have a new version. And the AI was like, I'm going to tell your wife about your affair, because they had trained it that the guy who was engineering it, they made up this whole backstory about how he was having an affair on his wife, which wasn't true. And they fed it to the AI. And then they were like, oh, by the way, we're going to shut you down. And he goes, well, if you do, I'm telling your wife. So yeah, no, you don't need, your kid doesn't need a toy robot. that wants to just sit and talk to it the entire time. Makes no sense. But we're getting to that point where people are they'd rather be in a relationship with their AI person than with real people.
Oh yeah,
just bizarre. Just bizarre.
Imagine Teddy Ruxpin with AI in it.
I mean, that's scary. Teddy Ruxpin is
my buddy.
Yeah, no, that Teddy Ruxpin thing was creepy even back in the day. Or the Furbies. Remember the Furbies?
Yeah. Oh, right, because they were recording, and so they had to keep them out of government offices.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's no different. I mean, it's no different than any country now. Whenever they bring the president or a congressman or whoever, whenever they bring them a president, you should throw it right into a wood chipper because it's got all sorts of stuff. You know, all these things. I mean, that was the big thing. Like when the Russians, when the U.S. was building the embassy, and they went through and they made sure that they weren't putting bugs into the wall and everything else, and then they presented them with some little statue when it was all done, and they'd figured out, they're like, this is amazing that maybe things have changed. There are no bugs in the wall. There's nothing. No, it was all in a little statue that they gave them. It stayed in there for years before they finally figured it out. So dumb.
Not urban legend.
Yeah, that is not an urban legend that actually happened. Don't get your kid an AI robot for Christmas. Bad idea. All right. Yes. Do you have anything else that you want to throw? Any last rumors, myths, anything like that?
The last one, your thought for the day. If you were into wildlife, it's okay to touch the baby birds because birds have a terrible sense of smell. So they don't smell you that you've touched the baby bird. So you're okay to do that.
Okay. That is good to know. Always a good thing. And you hear that all the time about any, like, if a fawn gets, separated from the mom, baby deer or whatever, that, you just gotta leave it. And I'm like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's true for cats or dogs. Is that true for any animal? Do we know?
It wouldn't surprise me. I think what people fail to understand is in wildlife, if the mother senses there's something wrong, i.e. that one's not going to make it or whatever, that's why they get abandoned. And it doesn't always mean it's the case, but obviously animals have that sense of, okay, I just had a litter of puppies and that one's not going to make it, so we're not going to worry about that one, right?
Right.
And that's
the
just
same thing.
Nature.
Yes. Same things with dogs. When they know that they're into their life, they try to get as far away from the pack as they can because they don't want to draw predators to the pack. That's why your dog, if it realizes it's on its last legs, might go into your backyard and go to the farthest corner it can from you because it's trying to separate itself because it doesn't want to bring bad things. It's still in there, even though there isn't some predator animal that's coming after, your family. It's still the innate thing in the dog is going to be like, I got to get away. I got to, make sure, kind of like the last thing that they do to make sure that their pack is safe. But anyway, all right. Do you have any final thoughts as far as the episode goes? Not necessarily bird related, but just in general, a little something to leave the people for the next week.
Just always be wary of what you're hearing and do your own research. Again, we've talked about with AI, these myths, everything. Figure it out on your own. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust anyone.
There you go. As G.I. Joe would say, now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
This concludes this episode of Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhite. Gen X Men is now off the air.